I was asked this morning on First Take. I was asked on First Take, which is the worst, collapse, the Cowboys or the Eagles? Cowboys have a bad game, obviously. All year we thought they were going to go. This was a different Cowboys team, especially at home. They're different. They lay an egg against an incredible Green Bay Packers performance, and what they did, Jordan Love did, obviously great. For me, the Eagles being 10-1, number one in the NFC, fighting for home field advantage over there in the link, and then 1-6 down the stretch. I don't know why we didn't think that maybe something happened in the locker room. Was there a loss of trust? Obviously, they fired the DC. They moved Matt Patricia in there. What do you think, from looking outside in as a guy who's been around the NFL for 50 years, happened in Philadelphia?
I don't think it's just one thing, right? I think it's a combination. First of all, whenever you're the Super Bowl team, you always have that hangover the next year. It's just natural. I mean, the Bengals avoided it, and they went to the divisional game, but that Super Bowl year you go and you don't win, that's always tough. And I think when you watch this team play, they were fortunate in the beginning of the season. They won a lot of games. The best game they had in terms of really dominating was the Tampa Bay game in week 3. But from that point on, most every win was a dangerous win. They were in and out and making too many mistakes. And as the year came on, you could see it. Their fundamentals, their conditioning, the whole element of their team started to deteriorate. And you don't miss as many tackles as the Eagles have missed over the last 6 weeks if you're really practicing tackling, if you're really having the things that you need to do. And I think this has been one of those where we want to rest our older players because they are an older team, and we want to keep them fresh, but we've lost the basis of football, which are fundamentals, techniques, and the ability. And then when you factor in, okay, scheme-wise, really can't handle the blitz. We've seen it all year. No answer for the overload protections. Didn't even, they forced him to throw it hot last night, rallied to make the tackle. There was no chess match going on in Philly. And then defensively, when their front doesn't play well. See, last year their front was dominating. 60 of their 70 sacks came from a defensive line. And this year they can't generate that pressure. And so it exposes an area of weakness. And also their inability to cover at linebacker. They're slow. And so there's it's just not one thing. It's not like somebody got mad in the locker room. It's a combination of things, and they couldn't fix it. Look, you don't give up 30 points over the last 6 games of the year, and teams are running for an average of 150 yards against you if you're really playing fundamentally sound, and they weren't.
Okay, so let's talk about what's next, because obviously there's a video that we saw right before we went live of a Philadelphia Eagles fan down there at Tampa Bay Buccaneers game last night. Paid good money. He's front row.
Oh, yeah.
Front row, right near the tunnel where the Eagles go in and out of that pirate ship. And he just throws his, hey, get out of your neck, throwing his popcorn at him. Obviously, security guard saying, I'm going to kick you out of here. He's like, I'm leaving anyways. Look at the Jumbotron. Bucks win. Bucks win. Everybody's now thinking that Nick Sirianni is going to get fired. He was in the Super Bowl last year. 2 new coordinators, 3 new coordinators this year, if you go with the 2, adding Matt Patricia, who looked incredibly thin.
He did. Yeah.
Incredibly thin.
Fantastic.
Incredibly thin. I don't know what he's doing or how he's doing it. Maybe he's just, on the Ozempic diet, whatever the case. I'm sure he's feeling better than he's felt in a long time, but the team did not look great. The defense did not look great. And now they're calling for Sirianni to potentially be fired. Is that just the natural NFL cycle of how this whole thing goes? And what do you think actually happens over there in Philly?
Well, I think it's certainly Philadelphia. The fans are passionate, and, they've seen these meltdowns before. Before you guys were born, the Phillies in '64 had a 6.5-game lead in the division, and they had with 10 games to play and lost it. The 76ers were 2-0 on the Portland Trailblazers in '77 and got swept 4-2. So the city has seen these meltdowns occur. This one's dramatic because this team always had the aura of being able to turn it around. But you have to understand the Eagle organization. They have never been an organization that has turned the keys over to the head coach. They've always been an organization that has, since Andy Reid left, that has really helped the coach become a coach, right? They've always been able to be the sum of their parts, not an individual part. And so when they hired Sirianni, they got Steichen to come with them. They hired Jonathan Gannon. They brought together and they built an organization that helps the head coach. And now that's kind of fallen apart a little bit because of the coordinator's hire. They thought they were going to get Vic Fangio. They didn't get him. They had to make certain changes offensively, and it's just not coming. So I suspect Howie Roseman, the general manager, and Jeff Lurie will sit down and have meetings to figure out, how do we solve this problem? and how do we move forward? And part of that conversation is based on the market availability of what's out there. Would we be better off if we hired this coach? Would we be better off if we hired that coach? Would we be better off if we kept Nick and hired this offensive coordinator or that defense? I think you have to play all those scenarios in your head and then look 3 years from now, where are we? Where would we be if we do all those decisions? So it's easy for the guy in the front row to say, fire Sirianni, right? That's easy, right? But he doesn't have any answers to some of the questions that come after that. And I think they're really smart in Philly. They'll look at that over and decide where they need to go moving forward. I don't think it's not his style to fire a coach who's been to the playoffs every single year. But if there's something internally wrong within that building, then if he can only fix it by releasing Nick, then I think he would do it.
It is easy to be the guy in the front row who says fire Nick Sirianni, especially when you shop with SeatGeek.
Hell yeah.
The greatest ticket buying platform on planet Earth and
the moon.
But it feels like a lot of these conversations take a very long time and there's a lot of thought. I appreciate that you're saying this would be out of character for them to fire Nick Sirianni, but I think those Eagles fans are growing louder and louder. The expectation now is we're in the Super Bowl last year. This is what we need every single year. It's kind of a gift and a curse whenever you have success early as a head coach.